how's everybody doing? Okay, let's get this going. Okay, so this is 50 pips, 13th of January, 2013. I hope everybody's had a great weekend and I hope everybody's ready for the week ahead. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to make it pretty quick this week because I don't really want to labor the point, but I think the markets have been moving quite nicely and the moves are in play. We might see a little bit more of an extension, but as always, healthy markets tend not to only move in one direction for a sustained period of time, even though they could stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. We like to see healthy markets. So just a reminder, we will get pullbacks. The question is not if we will get them, it's just when. Now, in terms of the ES, as we've been talking about, a lot of people being caught off guard because they kept on trying to look for this to reverse and to fill this gap, which is still open. And as a reminder, we'd expect this gap to fill. The question is just, not necessarily now. As we discussed last time, as we press higher and as we're hovering at these highs, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm not riding any longs here, the odds are not in favor of me opening new long positions, or at least that's not the way I'm trading. Even though there will surely be some scalp longs to take, I think the odds start to favor looking for some kind of a retracement, right? Whether that's a retracement back into 1445s or all the way back down to those 1410s, we still have to see. But I still think I'm going into the week looking at, if I'm looking for put it this way, if I'm looking for the next 20 to 30 handle move, I'd expect it to come to the downside, not to the upside, okay? Even though we can grind higher. So just a couple of levels to the upside. I think a big test is going to be what is going to happen around these 1474s. Now, if we break above and start to hold above those 1474s, and with that I mean we start to get daily closes above those 1474s, then I think we might be seeing an extension of this move, potentially again explosive move all the way back up into those 90s, 1490s, and then I'll definitely be looking to initiate more shorts in a more aggressive fashion in this whole upper range. However, I'm going to be focusing very clearly to see if we break above these 1474s and we can't hold above, then I'll start to be more and more interested to play some downside. And I'd say, first targets would be for a move down into 1440s. And if we break, then we might get a chance to play the gap fill. But again, reminder, gaps do not have to fill. They tend to fill, but you don't want to be too stubborn trying to fight the flows. Of course, if we break back below those lows, then we'll be looking for this to fill. So at the moment, the zones of interest for me going into the week are going to be those 1440s to the downside and these 1474s to the upside right here, okay? Euro-GBP, just because I've had a ton of emails on this, just to remind, the move we've been talking on Twitter, and is a very it has completed. The primary move has completed. And what do we mean by primary move? Let me just clear this chart up. So we had two big rotations higher which were in play, and you can see the chart, broadly speaking, is very nice rotation higher as we keep on making these higher highs and higher lows. And the two moves we had on our chart was, first of all, this initial move from lows to highs that got bought at the 50%, pretty much to the pip, and we were looking at target for this move to complete into 8260s, okay? And the second, which is the move we were on in those weeklies and we've been talking about, was this most recent move up, which had a 50 back trigger and had the 123 extension into those 8280s. That's why we were talking about, we were looking for price to go. We like the confluence of 8260s into 8280s, okay? So we press smack into that. So as far as I'm concerned, the primary move, whether it's the bigger or the shorter one, was for us to rotate back into those 8260s, 8280s, and that's finished as far as I'm concerned, okay? Going into the week, what is going to be important for me is to see if we keep on moving into extensions all the way up into the 50 back, the much bigger swing 50 back, which is coming in at those 84s, right? Or if we start to see some healthy retracements before that plays out. So going into the week, the upside is coming in the next, and I mean, if we hold above these 8280s, I don't see much resistance all the way up until we get into those 8350s and higher up. And going into the week here on the downside, what I would be focused on, look at any pullbacks into those 8220s, which is that most recent high which broke explosively. So I would say 8220s all the way into the 8200. So that's going to be the broad support for the week, and the broad resistance, I would call that 8350s into 8380s. Okay, so just wanted to do that quickly because I had a bunch of emails on this. Now we'll do euro and cable. What's going on euro? So euro, we've very nice action. And just a reminder what was going on in terms of this weekly. So we had this, from a broader perspective, we had this big move down from those 49s all the way back down into those 126.50s. And what we started to talk about was this initial reaction, very hard, aggressive reaction to the downside. Here, series of lower highs that started, and what happened here, this got sold, this dotted line, I don't have it up in terms of the fib, was the 38 retracement of this bigger move, and we started moving down very aggressively. Okay, we came all the way back down and we completed the 123 extension from these aggressive shorts that started in these 34.90s. Okay, then what happens? So if we extend the move back down to that new low after it completed, highs to those new lows, once again, price got sold off very aggressively, not at the 50 back, but at the 38 level on the chart. And this was the big level we discussed for those potential moves to break back below those 120s. And as we started to move back down, very nice sequence here where the longs tried to press it higher and they couldn't break new highs. So this was the very good momentum for the shorts. And we said, we call this live a couple of times. So, it's really all about 127s. If we break below those 127s, then we'll start to get extremely bearish on this. But if we can't break back below those 127s, we really have to be cautious because we could try and break this sell point and completely reverse this current trend down. Okay, why were those 127s so important? Well, that 127 was a 100 MA and a front run of this 50 back, and bam, that's where we got the buyers moving very aggressively back to the upside. And that's when we started these whole moves back up, which we started to talk about. We're going to complete into those 134.30s and all the way back up into that level that got sold the first time, right? Then if we are to make this a bit bigger and look at what happened here, once we got bought on this most recent move back up, let me make this a bit bigger. Not only did we have this whole massive support zone, right? Move back up, bam, the 50 back got bought very aggressively twice. That's when we started to talk about those 132.30s for the 123 extension of this move. And once we completed higher, bam, 130s, confluence of that 50 back. Again, we've been on this for the long side, and I haven't changed my outlook since we were in those 127s. I'm still looking for 134.30s to print. Okay, so that's the current move. It's been moving extremely technically, very nice. Once again, to start the year, any kind of rumors of downgrades throughout the past years or 2 years usually been very good buying opportunities, even when the downgrades actually materialized. And the French rumor the other day gave us another great chance to get long again on the scare off. And so basically that's what I'm looking for going into the week. And just like the ES, if you don't have any long positions, it's not a, you know, the way we look at the markets, it's not a high odds play to start to initiate longs at highs here. I know Goldman called for a long. Yeah, I really don't care about that stuff. You know, the longs are at 127s, not at 133.50s or whatever, right? And so here I think what's interesting is going into the week that the resistance, we've got a lot of resistance that's going to start to come in ahead just after those 134s. Okay, so I think even if we move up into extensions all the way back into those 134s, I think the press higher is going to be interesting to start looking for some swing shorts. You know, whether they're just for retracements or for a bigger swing, we'll have to wait and see, but clearly the pot odds are favoring downside, not the upside here at highs. And we still might have to squeeze some shorts, some stubborn shorts out, but we'll have to see. But what's interesting to the downside, however, is keep an eye on what happens at those 133s, right? Even though they're not that far away, they're going to be interesting because if we cannot break back down below those, then it will probably mean that the pair will start to, catch a breather here and what we'd call, to a certain extent, neutralize, and then we could really move very aggressively. So if we don't come back into the 33s and keep on moving higher, then it's a much nicer setup to look for shorts higher up. If we start to base here and we base at the 133, then we could easily break through all the way to 135s. And again, if we break to the downside broader, because this is for the week, 131.50s are going to be interesting. Remember, we talked about it last week and the week before. The range was 130, 133, with those 131.50s inside being pivotal for action. Okay, and that's really when the pair started to accelerate. So equally, the way the 131.50s were pivotal for action to a break to the upside, they're now going to be pivotal for action to sustain the upside momentum from a bigger term perspective, or start to press back down to the low end of that range, which was those 130s. So we'll have to wait and see here. And then cable, what's going on with cable? So I'm just going to clear this up again, guys. I've got a bunch of stuff here from the weekly, so I just need to clear this up so we don't confuse anybody. But basically, similarly to the way we talked about Euro, the range for Euro was 130, 133, with the 131.50s being pivotal, and we got that extension all the way back up to the higher end of the range. What we were talking about on cable was the range being 160, 163, with the 161.50s pivotal in the mid-range. And even though cable has been a lot less volatile than Euro, we see that broadly speaking, and this goes back to 3 weeks ago, I kept on saying I can't get overtly bearish cable. I need to stay looking for longs and a bullish unless we get a daily close below the 160s. And we never got that daily close below the 160s. Beautiful hold of that low range. And then we press back higher all the way into the mid pivotal point we talked about, which was 161.50s. Now the sellers came in and we got an aggressive move down at those 161.50s, but extremely aggressive buying going on here, okay? So as long as this dip low holds, I would be looking for us to go back into 162.20s, and that would still imply game on from the move off low range all the way back into top of the range, which are those 163s. Should we start to break back below these 160.80s where the aggressive buyers came in, well, then I think it's going to start to look heavy and we might have to see a test of the low range again. But as long as those hold, I'm still looking for this to follow up Euro and go back to test its high range. So, again, I'm not going to go through all the other pairs. I just need to be fair to the guys in the weekly. So I really hope everybody's had a great weekend. Let's see what happens this week. I'll post this on the blog, on Twitter, everything else, and I'll try and post some charts throughout the week to follow this up. Again, thanks for listening. Have a great one. Take care. Bye-bye, guys.